few months now, we've had to use smaller pressure washers that we lift onto and off of the truck that allowed us to get around the building because we didn't quite have long enough high pressure hoses. It helps you also to get back to the pumps quick enough because some of them just aren't recirculated, so they can overheat. But all that changed today. We got the Hotsy HD4040 made into a Honda 390 engine. It's belt driven, which is optimized for a longer draw stroke in the pump, which allows it to pull water from a buffer tank without needing pressure coming from the source. So why would you want to hard mount a pressure washer? Well, one of the main reasons is to use a buffer tank. The buffer tank allows you to use a high gallon per minute pressure washer in most situations, because sometimes the source cannot supply the gallons per minute needed to run. Sometimes it's just one unit, but often it'll cover 1 or 2 units. But sometimes when you get into the higher gallons per minute, you just need that buffer tank so that it acts as a way to supply you with the gallons per minute you need, even though the source can't provide it. The second benefit is the recirculation. The recirculating off of the offloader valve allows the pump to continually cycle water, and that keeps it cool when you're not using the pump. Let's get into how that install went. So step 1 is buffer tank and plumbing, and step 2 would be hard mounting the pressure washer itself. You want to start with the buffer tank. I chose to mount the tank using 4 hooks with ratcheting straps for quick removal and repairs. On a small truck like this, the metal for the bed is quite thin, so 3/16 flat steel was used on the bottom to act as a large washer to ensure the hook anchors were secure despite the constant tension. This middle bar here is just the beginning of future mounting options for reels and is unnecessary for tank stability. On the tank, you want to account for all the water lines that you'll need for your setup. We have 2 3/4 inch draw ports and 2 3/4 inch supply ports for the pressure washers. These are 3/4 inch bulkhead fittings that use the 35mm hole saw and then are just tightened into place. We have the 2 supply lines, which are also the same. Then we have 2 1/2 inch recirculated water line fittings that use a 22mm hole saw, and again tightened them down with a thread locker like Loctite just to help them from vibrating loose. You can see how much pressure really flows through them in this shot here. It's important to use a filter in line. Here we have a 3/4 inch Banjo inline filter. The next step is you want to modify your pressure washer with these hard mount feet that are sold separately. The process is quite simple. Unbolting the existing hardware and attaching the new shorter legs. The supplied bolts aren't very versatile, and I had to grab a set of longer bolts to reach through the bed of the truck. The finished product is very nice and rigid. I opted to use a steel plate as large washers underneath for this as well. The plumbing is quite simple for our setup, with 1 feed line attached to the pressure washer via a barb. Recirculation of the water is handled through 1/2 inch hose sent back to the top of the tank. And there are many ways to do plumbing. Ours is quite simple. You can add air purge systems, float fill valves on the intakes, dual feeds on larger pumps, splitters, and downstreaming. These are all different ways of manipulating not only the pressure line but also soaps and supplies. Thanks for watching. This is our simple setup. We hope to make some of those changes in the future, and we'll catch you on the next update.